Hey guys, what's up? Dingo Crikey here with another figure review. This time we're going to be looking at Transformers Age of Extinction or Transformers Lost Age Movie Advanced Sideswipe. This figure was only released in the Takara version of the Age of Extinction toy line in November 2015, which made it a peculiar release as the line had seemed to finish in January of that year with the release of Stingray. At time of release, Sideswipe could be purchased for $34.90 on RobotKingdom.com, which would translate to about 4,180 yen. Though in Japan, I would guess that the price was closer to 3,200 yen like the other deluxe class figures. So with the figure being kind of an odd release, there are some things to make note of, and we'll get to them by looking at the box. For example, the figures usually have some sort of ID number down here, such as AD32 on Stingray's box, but this guy just has EX, which may also be for exclusive, as this figure I believe was a Toys R Us exclusive. And other than that, the box is pretty normal. You have your figure, his additional accessories, box art, picture on the side with some Japanese writing here, also on the bottom. Then on the back you have your product image in robot mode, car mode. They give him a full bio here, but nothing really pertains to Age of Extinction or what may have happened between the two films, so it's not too interesting, but kind of cool they still put it there. And that pretty much sums up the box, so let's get to looking at the figure. So here we have Sideswipe in his vehicle mode, which is of course a Corvette Stingray concept model, as it is the exact same thing in regards to mold as the original Dark of the Moon Deluxe class figure. The main differences being, 1. The color scheme, and these additional accessories which replace his original MechTech weapon. So let's bring the car itself in for a closer look. Same exact thing, he has the same pros and cons. He does have an overall sleek look which is done very well, but he does have some problems, such as these two pieces coming apart a lot. You can push them together, but still have that problem. From the bottom you have all of the robot bits. The back looks pretty nice, but as mentioned, this guy did have some problems with the cracks, as you can see in the top of the vehicle, but overall they don't look too bad, except for, of course, the infamous hole we have up here. But if you ignore that, it's a really nice vehicle mode. They have these seats done in here, which is a nice detail, even a steering wheel, which is something we don't usually get. Nice little details on the front, they colored Chevy symbol, so all of that is really cool looking, and looks even better in this silver color scheme. Now, of course, he does have the accessories, and though these are new to Sideswipe, they are the exact same thing which came with the Age of Extinction Deluxe Class Crosshairs figure. Little pistols are the same as well, but nevertheless, they work pretty good in this figure. For example, have these little holes on the side. Just take these mini pegs and push them into place on the sides of the vehicle. And I don't know if this was the intention, but in the Dark of the Moon film, we at least had some of the Autobots would have sort of weaponized vehicle modes. So this kind of helps symbolize that with these two guns on the side. Overall, I think they look pretty nice, and also look like they could be kind of effective too. Maybe they're angled a little bit too closely toward his car mode, but look nice overall. Then we have his larger weapon, which just plugs in right up here. And I do feel like this one functions much better in robot mode because it definitely looks pretty obviously upside down up on the top. And let's look at a comparison between the two figures in vehicle mode. Now, this new Lost Age release is basically what a lot of us had wanted from the original Dark of the Moon figure. It's basically just this guy done right. Or most people would argue, as this figure had a kind of unfinished look without the silver and just being left in this kind of creamy gray color. Whereas Sideswipe is traditionally finished with kind of a silver gloss over a lot of his parts, as is done here. But it is not the only difference, and we'll bring these guys in closer. As you can see, it's not just the silver added. He has different colors on what will become the robot's body, so that's pretty cool. You can also see inside of the cars painted differently as well. Other than that, not too much to say. The differences kind of speak for themselves here. So overall thoughts on this vehicle mode, it has a few flaws, but overall it's a really nice car mode. And I would say that's a lot coming from me, as originally I was not a fan of this new take on Sideswipe with basically him having the top down. But seeing it with this more completed paint job, I think it looks just as good as the other Sideswipe figures overall. Has a nice sleek look, and the overall detailing, these streaks we have going back here, just really nice looking car mode. And I guess I should also mention that some of the accessories work really nicely in this mode. As far as cons for this mode, there are a few. The swords on the side here can come loosened from the rest of the car very easily, giving it that cracked look. Of course, he does still have the infamous hole in the top. And this is something I forgot to mention, but I think is kind of important. It's something that owners of the original figure would know, is he has a pretty light feeling, and that's something that definitely puts him a few points lower than either Revenge of the Fallen or Hunt for the Decepticon Sideswipe, and was pretty recurring problem with the Dark of the Moon figures altogether. As for some additional comparisons, here we have him with Age of Extinction, Evasion Mode Optimus Prime, and Takara Exclusive Lost Age Stinger. And here we have him with Combiner Wars Streetwise and Transformers Legends Nightbird. With all that aside, let's get to looking at the figure's transformation. And first thing you're going to want to do is just loosen some of this stuff up here, starting right here. Just kind of wiggle these from the body of the car. And then you want to tilt what's going to become the feet downward to loosen them up from those pegs there. You may want to pull these up just to kind of get them out of the way, get them into position. And next we'll take a look at the arms. So basically, you want to pull them out of place, get them situated right about there, push them down, and if you'd like to, you can pop out the hands right now as well. Next thing you're going to want to do is take this little body piece here, flip it up, loosen the middle of the front of the car, and push down on the body. And now we're about halfway there. Just situate these again, and now let's mess with the rest of the back kibble. First, I'm going to want to take this piece, push it down, like so, and now this piece down here comes up, just like that. Now let's take a look at the legs and the feet. First you want to push these back. Now looking at the feet, tilt this hinge joint down, his heel comes down like that, and then the toe, just like that. And obviously, same thing for the other leg. And to situate the legs, probably going to want to do this to make them accurate to Sideswipe's movie appearance. And the rest is just situating and getting everything in the proper place. And there we have Deluxe Class Sideswipe in robot mode. And overall this guy has a pretty nice look. You have that traditional bulkier in the upper body look for Sideswipe, and getting skinnier in the legs. And obviously a whole lot of silver with these touches of black that are pretty nicely balanced all throughout. They're not overdone, but they give enough to kind of complete the color scheme. And we have some regular gray throughout here. As you can see, let's bring him up close. He has blue paint on the eyes, and with the way they're painted, they really stick out, which against the silver does look really nice. Give you guys a bit of a 360. You can see the back. He does have a lot of kibble back here. Some people may not be crazy about that. Definitely not the best management of the kibble that Sideswipe has had. You can have a look at the legs. Car seats look a little bit awkward back there, but the overall structure and detailing is pretty nice. A little bit too skinny perhaps, but pretty nice overall. While a lot of the detailing on this guy is pretty nice, there are some things that for myself and for other people are a bit of a problem, such as this detail up here. Now I know it's not the way it's transformed in the movie. That isn't really the reason it bothers me. It's just how it's just some extra details in the back there with no significant extension, which kind of gives it a toyish look. I'm probably not using the right word, but I think you guys know what I mean. I will say that these problems with the original mold are really watered down by what the silver color scheme does for the figure. It just does wonders on it. If you can't, maybe you can't see the full effect on camera, but I would vouch for the fact that in person it looks really nice, much better than the original figure did. As far as playability and functionality of the toy, we'll take a look at the articulation. First, we have the legs. You have your basic ball joint up here, pretty good range. You can also do a full 360 right there, which is pretty nice. Knee articulation, as always, it's going to be kind of awkward because Sideswipe has chicken legs, but probably the best out of any of the Sideswipe figures. There is a pretty good range of motion and ways you can pose his legs. As far as the toes, I'll probably do some additional stuff with that. The arms, I have a ball joint up here. At the elbow, you have a hinge, and if you push a little bit harder, you can get him to do a full right angle, which is pretty nice. Now you do gotta watch with these back pieces and the blades. They can kind of get in the way, which can be a little bit annoying, but it's not too bad. The head, a little bit of up and down motion. You can of course do a full 360, and that pretty much sums it up. You can get some pretty good poses out of this guy. The legs are not nearly as problematic or restrictive as they were with the previous figures. You can of course still have problems. He does have sort of odd feet, and these toes are rather small, so you can see if get around to posing him more, may have him fall over. Has those wheels right there, but really it's a huge improvement over the previous Sideswipe figures. As far as other features, he, of course, has his blades. You can flip these either way. They do a full 360 here. So you can just flip them out like that. They're pretty cool. As far as accessories, we'll look at these little pistol blasters first. You can hold these pretty well. Maybe a little bit better than crosshairs, but you still might have some problems with them falling out. But surprisingly, for not being made for this mold, they do work pretty well. Preferably though, like to attach these onto the back here, and this is actually how they're displayed on the box. Those same pegs you used in vehicle mode. Just take them, push them in right there, and this is more of a weapon storage. I'm sure he could kind of use them in this mode, but they kind of look better as storage, so you can have him use this blaster here. And he not only holds this weapon really well, meaning it fits in his hand very nicely, not loose at all, but it also looks cool with the figure, which is surprising because, you know, they just used this from crosshairs, of course, but in this instance, if they're going to reuse weapons, they definitely picked the right ones. Now, I will say, same with the vehicle mode, though the figure looks really nice, it has a very light, I don't want to say flimsy, but generic might be the right word in regards to its feeling. So, if that's an issue for you, this figure definitely has it. And if you had the original Dark of the Moon figure, you would know that. Comparing him to the original Dark of the Moon figure is actually pretty striking, because until you see it, you don't realize how much of a difference the silver makes. As for the robot mode, overall it's kind of the same thoughts as the vehicle mode. He has a few cons, but overall I think the pros outweigh them, and probably even more in robot mode. Visually, the only things he really has going against him in my opinion are probably just the way some of the details, such as those 4 circles back there look. Maybe some of the kibble, it's not the best, but definitely not the worst it's been handled on Sideswipe. And, you know, maybe some people would have a problem with the legs, though I would argue this is the nicest leg design for Sideswipe. And overall, and with this new color scheme, I would say this is the nicest representation we have ever had of Sideswipe from the films. And this is coming from someone who wasn't all that crazy about the Dark of the Moon figure. I could recognize it was better in regards to articulation, the overall playability, as opposed to the previous figures, but the color scheme really took points away. this one nails all of those problems. As far as playability, he has some really fun features. His signature battle blades, the accessories, which work very well in this mode, and the overall posability is the best Sideswipe has had, though you still might have the occasional problem with him standing. One of the biggest problems in regards to having this guy in hand is just the kind of flimsy feel, which, if you owned Dark of the Moon figures, you're probably kind of used to. Now, one thing I did want to mention in regards to the silver paint. It looks really nice. One of the problems we do have with more of this glossy looking paint is that it has a tendency to chip. Now, originally when I got this figure, transforming it into vehicle mode, back into robot mode, I did notice that I would come up with some little bits of what looked to be maybe like silver paint on the tips of my fingers. Since then, I really haven't noticed anything, so I'm thinking maybe it was just some little clumped bits, things like that were just chipping off. But as for my version, I'm hoping it was just a few little bits, but that definitely is something to look out for. So here we have a size comparison with Age of Extinction, Evasion Mode Optimus Prime, and Lost Age Stinger. And here's one more comparison showing him with Combiner Wars Streetwise and my standard figure for robot mode size comparisons, Classics Optimus Prime. Overall, final thoughts, this is a really nice deluxe class figure with a lot of pros to go around. And sure, it does have its cons in both modes, most of which you would know if you own the original Dark of the Moon figure, or if not, I think I've already explained them throughout the rest of the review. And overall, I would say the pros heavily outweigh the cons, and the heavily there really has to do with the silver paint. As it is, of course, the main difference. Guess what's going to be the main selling point for this figure? In my opinion, it does work really well. They did a nice job. Now, of course, the big question is whether or not I would recommend this guy, and that's a bit of a sketchy issue. So if you're a regular collector who just, basically tries to keep up with the line, maybe not necessarily a completist, I probably wouldn't recommend getting him because you can get other Sideswipe figures probably for a much cheaper price. And if you're not extremely dedicated to this character or completing your Age of Extinction collection, you might not consider it worth it. Now, if you're a big Sideswipe fan, I would say this figure is definitely necessary. As I mentioned earlier in the review, I think this is the best rendition of his character we have ever gotten from the main line. And as a big fan of Sideswipe myself, I was completely happy with the figure. Not only is it one of my favorite Sideswipes, but it's probably one of my favorite Transformers movie figures altogether. And because of that, I would say the original Dark of the Moon figure is no substitute. Anyways, that's all that I have to say about this figure. If you have any thoughts on the figure or the review itself, you can drop them off in the comment section below, along with any questions you might have had about the review or any tips for future reviews I make. You can go to my channel to check out my previous Transformer figure reviews, along with my Transformers commentary video. Anyways, that's all I have to say for now. Thanks for watching, stay tuned, and have a good one, guys. I'll see you soon.